innovative technology providers. And the technology can be used to sell or lease or partner with another financial institutions to improve the customer journey or to improve processes or to cross-sell even better artificial intelligence. For those kind of technology, you don't need a sandbox. You can just start your company. And what we have found out, after a while, because we started to understand fintech, that's why QFC has created this fintech services provider definition. It's basically anyone who has technology and would like to use that technology in combination with a partner bank. And I think that is something that the central bank also would like to see here. I think they're a bit hesitant to allow people to have a money service provider license directly from the central bank. So they forced everybody to work with the local central banks. So any fintech company who has ideas, please make sure that you find your way into those banks and see how you can solve their problems and understand the problems that the banks have and then come up with your fintech solution. I'm pretty sure that Fatora and Cwallet can explain this even better.
Yes, for sure, definitely. I will come back to Fatora and Cwallet on that area because of their practical experience on the ground. But let's remain with you in the financial center. Since it is, I'm glad that to hear that you're not really trying to impose most of the sandbox technology or the rules and regulations, and you're open, to hear what the investors are coming. But the question comes, how easy it is for a new startup, whether it is local or international, to penetrate the fintech sector here in Qatar, from a QFC perspective?
First of all, we have this corona, so there are many people who like to come, but they cannot come because they cannot travel. Sure. We have a long list of international companies that have shown an interest, and we have all the international fintech companies that come from the Qatar Fintech Hub. They are setting up on the QFC, so we give them a license so they can do business if they wish, but they physically cannot come here. And I think that is really a handicap. I think both the Qatar Fintech Hub, Qatar Development Bank, and QFC, we try to help these companies by introducing them to possible customers. And that happens through the demo day, but also on individual cases, we pick up the phone, try to find customers for these fintech companies. So so we help them, but it's difficult. I would say it is much better if you actually are on the ground, meet people, talk to investors, talk to possible customers. That will make life easy, but unfortunately, it can take probably another few months before we are completely COVID-free.
Yeah, definitely. COVID has been definitely an issue, for everybody, but it has been a blessing for a lot of the fintech companies as well, right? Most of the statistics and the numbers we keep hearing, it is also showing that at least the adoption rate is increasing very, very fast, and people are opting for it. So it's a blessing in disguise somehow.
Yeah, it's a catalyst for growth. It goes quicker. Nobody wants to touch cash anymore. You do everything with your phone or card or whatever. The adaptation rate has moved up because of COVID.
Okay. Now, if a company is, especially the investors who are coming from abroad and trying to come and settle here in QFC, that's quite a step. And most of them, they're coming with the aim that they can penetrate or get access to regional market, whether it is at the GCC level or the MENA region. Do you have programs in place to help them to scale?
So the question is about investors coming here, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't see many investors coming here. So it's mostly that I see local initiatives where people in Qatar or institutions or funds or investment clubs, they would like to invest in technology. And I think Dr.Tejinder, is a good example, to connect money and startups. So there's a lot of local money. I think that is an asset of Qatar. So the international venture capital companies not necessarily would like to come. They will only come if, let's say, somebody of Qatar, like Qatar Investment Authority, will put 200 million in their fund. Then they will say, fine, I'm happy to set up here. I think that's the game. So they only want to come here if some big investors put a lot of money in there, and we are trying to convince those big ones to do that, because we believe that if we have a few more of those big venture capital firms here, that will attract even more fintech companies to come here and to operate from Qatar. Not necessarily only in Qatar, but from Qatar into nearby markets. Kuwait, Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan. I think there's so many countries nearby where we can do business from Qatar.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
let's. Do you want to comment,
Sorry.
Dr. Singh?
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Henk is saying. So he's absolutely right, and what we need to do here is that I would put my comment on that we need to encourage the local investors to come forward and support the startups. That is the need of the hour right now. We need to develop the landscape. If we don't develop our landscape, we don't support the local startups, and we don't make it visible cross-border, until then the investors coming into the country is a question mark. But if we make it visible cross-border, we take the initiative as investors, we support the local startups, we bring up the fintech, and we, whatever it is, and we develop a landscape. I'm not saying a fully developed landscape, but yes, we show some, traction in it. Then probably, the noise will go cross-border, and that's when the investor will start looking at, oh, we got a fintech landscape in Qatar, and some of the very promising startup that can scale into the region, and that's where your, the investors' neck will turn, and they will look at the startups from Qatar, and of course the fintech hub. So I think this is what we need to do as collectively between QDB, QFC, the startups, and people like us, 360 Nautica and other companies. We all need to come together and build the landscape for fintech for Qatar.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We need to, basically, the pie has to get bigger and bigger by trying to invest in the local market in order to expand it and make it viable, I think, for investors. Mr. Hilal, I think this is a good segue for you, because you're an accelerator as well as an incubator. What are the innovation programs that you're putting in place to encourage more uptake from the local startups?
In incubation and accelerator program, we have many topics that we offer for the fintechs, and Saleh was one of our fintechs in Wave 1. We offer them business development sessions. We match them with good mentors like Henk. So we offer them many things that will help them to grow up in the system and the ecosystem here in Qatar.
The companies which have applied in the last cycle, in which track or in which verticals you have seen?
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I said the companies that applied previously to your incubator or the accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
In which sector? Are it payment or other areas?
No, they apply from many areas, but in Wave 1, we were focused on payment. So we accept only fintechs who focus on payment. And Wave 2, we are focusing on emerging markets.
Okay, emerging market is a broad term. Is there a specific vertical with it?
No.
Okay, so it's open.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Let me move to the providers. Can you start with Michael? I think, Michael, I have been doing a lot of research on Cwallet, and it has a very interesting story. It's a true entrepreneurship story. It would be interesting if you can share with the audience how Cwallet was founded and what is the concept behind it.
Thank you, Haida. So I always love to present that Cwallet is actually my thesis in HEC Paris. So it all started from this journey, and then because of the incubation that Qatar has, like Digital Incubation Center, So it was focusing mainly on Filipino domestic helpers. So that was the idea. And then when we went to the Digital Incubation Center and other incubation programs, so they're telling us, okay, the concept is good, but the market is small. So we have to grow our concept bigger and include all the migrant workers, everyone that is sending money. So, and then it evolved. It became a mobile money wallet that allows users to orchestrate payments online, on site, or on delivery. It also promotes financial literacy and financial inclusions, to support the initiative of a cashless society and a cashless World Cup. We always insist on those initiatives, and it evolves on just three basic principles: payroll, payment, and remittance. However, every time I explain this, the dynamics to normal individuals that doesn't know fintech, it's still difficult for them to digest. So what we usually do is to compare it and what's available in the country from home, in their home country. So in a nutshell, I always tell them it's like M-Pesa in Kenya, it's Paytm in India, it's like Bcash in Bangladesh, or Gcash in the Philippines. So it takes for users to compare it on another product that is available from home country, then they will understand what is the concept. And now in the local setting, we have, of course, Urido Mobile Money. However, the key difference is our inclusiveness in culture, meaning either Vodafone and Urido users can use the service, and even individuals that doesn't have a bank account. So that's what we're trying to create a difference out of the concept of Cwallet.
Basically, you're trying to serve the unbanked, right? Those people who cannot afford to have a bank account.
In the beginning, because like any other startups, you need to keep pivoting your business model, because we saw an opportunity on the payment feature also. If you notice that there are three different aspects. The payroll are focusing on B2B and companies, but it's a strategic move, because if you get the payroll in place and the money goes into the wallet, then it's a convenient for all users. And then you have the payment feature that is focusing on expats with family, Qataris, etc., because they have high buying power. And then you have remittance, focusing on expats that send money home. So we're trying to create an ecosystem where we can have all these features in one place.
Okay, that's good. And how do you find the uptake? Did COVID being one of the catalysts as well in terms of adoption?
Yes, I think we're late during COVID, because when COVID hit, everyone called me, because all money transfer operators were closed. Even the biggest remittance were closed, so no one can send money from any branch. And I think it has a trajectory increase the use of mobile money on sending money home. And yes, COVID before COVID, cash was the king. Now cash is dirty. So it actually helped educate everyone, even startups. They went to e-commerce. Before, e-commerce in Qatar is fake e-commerce because it's cash on delivery. So how can you say it's when you're paying cash on delivery? So those are the key indicators that there could be a drastic change, and the behavior of consumers will automatically adjust on what is out there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm also one of the owners of an e-commerce platform, and I agree with you 100%. It is everything is becoming cashless right now. I agree with you, which is good for us, but also it's good for the banks and the payment gateways. I've seen that you are also having signed an agreement lately with Misa. I think for your data as a data host, right? As a hosting service. Is that mandatory? I mean, to use a local hosting provider, or you feel like is this part of the rules and regulation, or because it is affordable? Because as you know, hosting is an issue. It can be quite expensive.
Yes, it is actually, it's a strategic move, because in terms of regulation, we need all the help we can get. That's why we're partnering with MISA to host the data within Qatar. We're partnering with Smart Infotech that will provide anti-money laundering softwares. We hired the money laundering officer. We hired lawyers that will help us in policies and procedure. Now we're putting our risk in place, cybersecurity. So we're trying to put everything, because we firmly believe that the regulation is not the competition. They're actually our friend because we have the same spirit. The spirit is to protect the welfare of the consumer and the stakeholders. And if we comply, in fact, the fintech team of Qatar Central Bank has been guiding us in the regulatory compliance, and it's one of the game changer in terms of Cwallet valuation, because there are other international investors that are just waiting for it to be processed on our hand, and they're willing to put a lot of investment on it. So that's why it's our main focus, and all strategic move are actually beneficial for startup. We are always blunt and honest with our partners. We're telling them the value that brings now on the table is towards us, because MISA doesn't need us yet, but it could be a game changer because they can host data. Microsoft Azure is coming and they're using their services. Google is coming as well. So there are so many dynamics. It's just the value it will bring, because those are local entities as well. So the in-country value is very high.
Yeah, absolutely right. I agree with you. That's a good move, actually. Okay, now let me move to Fatora, because Fatora is one of the old the fintech companies we keep hearing about. I mean, if all this is the right say, I don't misunderstand me, Saleh, but we keep hearing Fatora is and QPay. This is where the old companies so far by Qatar standards, if I can say. Can you explain what is Fatora? I mean, as an invoicing platform.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's say why Fatora first. Back in 2018, we realized how complicated it is for SME to enable online payment, and for that reason, this is where Fatora idea have started. So we focused on enablement of online payment. We focused on changing the behavior of the consumer. And the statistics at that time shows that 85% of the market were accepting payments manually. When I say manually, it's either cash and check or even bank transfer. So it was very weak. It was very, the online payment was the last option that people will think about. And from that area that we have targeted our customer to provide them or to provide a streamlined experience to start accepting payment online. So in Fatora, we consider ourselves as a payment integrator. And why we said that? Because we focus on the invoicing solution in Fatora. And when our merchants have, use our app, they can create an invoice, send it to their customer, and their customer or the payer can use different payment method. So we started with a simple payment method, which is Visa, MasterCard, and local debit card. But this was not enough because we also have international merchants are utilizing our platform. So we also added the PayPal method as a payment method for Fatora. But due to the restriction and due to the mechanism of how PayPal works, that did not work out very well with Fatora. Although it was an option that can be utilized by the merchants. Now we have recently a partnership with Ooredoo that will allow our merchants to start accepting Ooredoo mobile money payments in Fatora. And that have changed the game. So now Fatora is not about Visa, MasterCard payments or credit card payment. Now it's also will start accepting wallet payments in Fatora, utilizing the partnership with different wallet providers. Also soon we can also provide the Cwallet as a payment method that we are working with them at the moment. So what we're trying to do is to bring an umbrella under Fatora to keep our merchants a convenient way of accepting payments online.
That's quite a transformation from the initial encounter I have with Fatora, but that's good. So how do you find the adoption from the business side? Because that's usually at the beginning it's challenging, but usually once it starts rolling, I think it pick up easily. How do you see the adoption now from the businesses?
Well, our effort at the beginning was very. We were focused only on educating the market. And it was a very hard task, because we were very few in the market, and this is where we wanted to bring the value and the benefit of online payment to our merchants when we onboard them. Although it was a very hard task, but when we hit with the COVID situation, and it have accelerated the adoption of technology, and also the accelerated of accepting online payments. As Michael said, he maybe was a little bit late, or because the COVID hit and people wanted to transfer money outside. But it's never late, because now the mindset is we wanted to accept payments online. We wanted to have a safe method of paying to our customers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how is your relationship with the central bank in terms of regulation? Is it hand-holding approach, as Michael has positioned it?
Well, probably Michael and the Cwallet, they have a different mechanism. We are very light solution. We consider to be unregulated business because we are an invoicing solution, but we work very closely with the stakeholders and regulators, to keep updated with the mandates, also to keep Fatora under compliance, and that's what kept us up to date. Also, as Mr. Hilal mentioned, that we are part of the FinTech Hub first wave, and that helped us a lot in connecting with the Qatar Central Bank and other banks in Qatar to actually see the opportunity how we connect our service.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let me go to the investment side. Dr. Singh, if I can come back to you again. Basically, now you can see that the market size probably is not large enough. It probably needs a push, to expand the different verticals of fintech industry. But what are you looking for in terms of startups in order to invest on?
So we are looking at the startups. Basically, when we are looking at the startups, we're looking at the scalable models, the winners basically. The startups who have a DNA of capturing the market. As Henk rightly said, this is not a market which will have multiple players. This is probably a market having one player in each of those verticals probably, and at the most number two, and that too also just to identify who is number one. So basically, it's a market which can accommodate just one great player. And if you look at the different fintech products, we would look at the winners that would probably be scalable, not just in Qatar, all across the vertical horizontally, and then also out of Qatar. If they can go into the region and create that kind of a story or that kind of attractions. Of course, all investors, when they come into investment into a startup, they look at the startup DNA, and the basic principle is that today I invest, how do I exit? When do I exit? So those questions are always on the back of the mind for an investor. So until as an investor sees that there is a growth, there is a scalability, and a time when I can exit, probably not necessary, but probably he can exit. Until then, the confidence of investor doesn't come. So investors basically would look at the startups which are promising, and they're trying to create things in a blue ocean corner, which I always say, a very virgin territory where we have not seen similar products, and they're definitely scalable. So the investor looks at the multiple things. So this is how we are looking at it. We are also looking at the space where a startup can be in a green zone, a blue ocean idea. It can scale, and definitely there is an exit for an investor when the time comes. So all these three things have to play in investor minds before he goes for an investment.
And do you think that right now that kind of diversity in the vertical, do you think that the current ecosystem is supporting that?
I would say that current ecosystem is evolving. I will put it this way. I would not say it is still to start or it is very mature. I would say it is evolving. So I think we are going in the right direction with the step that QDB has taken and QFC has taken. We will definitely see a very different fintech landscape in a year or 2 years time. Definitely, because this will help and give confidence to the startups that want to come in the fintech space. They want to do things in insurance. They want to do things in wallet. They want to do things in invoicing, payment solutions. Definitely this kind of infrastructure or this kind of a support will give them a lot of confidence. So I think let's wait for a year and a half. We will see a very different landscape of fintech in Qatar, for sure.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, I think
I think Huwaida has just kind of lost her connection. So let me just continue. Henk, what do you think about the landscape? Is it already you feel that in a year or 2 years time this would be much more different than what it is today?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think together with all the stakeholders in Qatar, we have been able to form the Qatar Fintech Hub. And I think that's unique because if you look at maybe some of our neighbors, they have Fintech hubs in every city. At least we work together and get things done. I think that is important. That makes a difference. Maybe we were a bit slow in the start, and maybe the regulator needs to catch up a bit. But I'm pretty sure when they do, we can deliver something. And I see great ideas. I'm in the jury of the second wave. I see fantastic companies with emerging technology coming to Qatar. I also see people with who are basically venture builders, like 360 Nautica as well. They will create opportunities. And we have a large financial sector, and the financial sector has not been too innovative. So your talent and your innovation is needed. And I think the financial sector is realizing the opportunity. So 2 years from now, I think we have a thriving landscape. Hopefully the central bank has opened up with some good regulations and allow open banking, for instance. I think that would be very important. We've seen Saudi has just approved that. Hopefully we will follow soon.
okay. I think with the questions, I'm starting here to look also at the questions. The question, I don't know, it's I think it is to Henk. Does a fintech startup need to be registered with QFC, or is it okay to be an LLC company under MOCI?
Yeah, both are possible. Yeah, so I think the Qatar Central Bank made it very clear that we have the platforms like Qatar Financial Center, mostly catered for international companies because we operate under UK common law. People can set up with us, and typically the international companies like to do that, or the local fintech companies with international ambitions. Otherwise, you can just set up under the Ministry of Commerce and Industries. So no issue at all. It's up to the fintech.
Okay, good. The other question I have, I don't know whom to direct, but I will say it, and whoever feel like is the right one to answer, go ahead, please. They said that the most important part of the ecosystem is the sandbox, again, policies and regulations, which are not ready yet. How flexible or adaptive is the central bank regulation with lending fintech? My assumption that can be to Hilal, or it can be to even Henk. Both of you, I think you can, as a market developer and as an enabler.
Yes, as I mentioned, the sandbox is not ready yet, and as Saleh mentioned, he no need to be regulated from in his product. No need to be regulated from central bank. So I think there is some we can come with a fintech idea that we don't have to regulate them from central bank. But sooner or later, I think central bank they will launch the sandbox.
Is there any of the providers here on as a lending fintech?
No.
Okay, sorry. Henk, do you want to add anything on that in that area?
Yeah, I think I couldn't pick your last question. So,
is any of the fintech providers in Qatar, is it a lending fintech?
Any of the fintech provider? No. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the fintech providers. Yeah, so again, if you go back to the sandbox, because that seems to be an important point, I agree with Hilal. Sandbox and regulations is only limited, conditional to be successful. There are many other things like e-commerce and other ideas where you can be very successful in fintech without the need to go to a sandbox or regulations.
I might add a comment over here, because well, we face a lot of startup, in our journey, that they wanted to start their fintech and or similar solutions, but they put an obstacle on themselves, and they said, no, I am waiting for the regulation before I start, or no, the regulators are not providing me a license, but this is not the case, because as we understand, the sandbox is a tool to actually regulate whoever require regulation. As Mr. Henk said, 80% of whatever now they approached QFC, they are not required any regulation. So the idea behind we require regulation before we start, that have to change, and the mindset have to change. We always, as a startup, talking to other startup, to the community, is we inform them that at least start the proof of concept. Put the idea on a table. Go speak to investors. Go on partnership with banks. Because if you have a very valuable idea, the regulation would come obviously after we form the incorporation and apply for the proper documents. But putting the regulation as an obstacle, that requires to be changed at the moment, and people have to understand that they need to go. Then if it's actually working, they can apply for the rest of the process.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is definitely, the regulation doesn't have to be the first part of thinking of the startup, but there are certain vertical, like lending verticals, that there has to be some sort of a sandbox in place in order for them to start their work, or they have to think about it at the background in order to be able to scale. I have also several questions again from the audience. One question is, if an established fintech provider or a payment service provider is seeking to establish presence in Qatar, would they also have to go through the regulatory sandbox in order to develop or scale its product, or would be eligible to apply for obtain payment service provider license from the QCB and QFC? It seems to me it is being repeated.
Shall I take this?
Also...
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, because we get these questions all the time. So since there's no sandbox yet, hopefully it will be announced soon. We are already introducing some of the international companies directly to the sandbox team, because there is a sandbox team with some excellent people in the central bank, and we are linking them already, so that we could do that already, both Qatar Fintech Hub and ourselves. But the other thing is that if you have a solution and you think that solution works well for a bank that doesn't have the innovation itself, you come here and link with that bank, or with Ooredoo, as somebody said, or maybe with other utility providers. So if you have a solution and you're outside Qatar, consider the route of partnering with a local bank. I think that would be the advice.
Okay, good. I have also another question for you. Is QFC regulation ready for insurance tech and wealth management tech?
In my opinion, you don't need regulations for that. So, and we see some initiatives now at the Qatar Fintech Hub. So the second wave of incubation, there will be many of those. So wealth management tech is very interesting. So that's robot advisory on investments, or helping people to make investment decisions, or that's fantastic. In my opinion, that's all technology and should not be regulated. And we see initiatives on insurtech specifically, let's say platforms. Let's say people make a comparison between products, and then let's say the platform gives the opportunity to buy this insurance or that insurance, and then people can select themselves. So insurtech, I think, has a great future, and we have Qatar Insurance Company here as the biggest insurance company in the Middle East, and many others. So I think insurtech is a growth area.
Okay, so that's a message, I think, to all startups or people who are thinking of new startups in fintech, insurance is an area. I have a question for Michael. I think since you mentioned the fintech association, the fintech association, will it help in to be an active part in the sandbox formation, or a silent participant, or a backseat driver? That's the question from the audience. So
actually, the objective is to create a community, meaning it's a non-profit organization that does things for the community. So this is what actually the team of QFC had told us. So a collaborative type of ecosystem where, you know, like there's the automotive industry association, there's the banking association, so they all compete with each other. Nonetheless, you know, and they face the same issues together. So if like collectively, you know, they talk to regulations, like for example, there's the drone, or like, you know, this automotive type of industry that they're facing, they can collectively talk to the ecosystem. So that's what the objective of the Qatar Fintech Association. Collectively, we will try to raise issues and solve issues together, along with stakeholders, because the goal of the association is to bring the banks, to bring the insurance companies, to bring financial institutions, to bring regulators in this ecosystem where we can just talk and discuss without any hats involved. You know, it's like a brainstorming session where we can bring, for example, jobs, trainings, funding, mentoring, coaching, and different type of topics that is not profit oriented, but it's strategic oriented in terms of setting up your business, because the association also welcomes individuals that are just enthusiastic to be on the fintech space. You know, they would learn, they will see that the hardship, you know, the trials, the number of hours everyone is spending in the office. You know, I like Saleh, I saw him in Portugal a couple of years ago in the Web Summit. I saw Henk in Kuwait 2019 for the biggest fintech event there. You know, so you don't see them here sometimes. So this association will actually be an access to individuals like with such expertise. So this is the commonality, and the association is not only with Qatar fintech startups. You know, there are founding members coming from Singapore, from Russia, from Romania, that will bring different expertise. You know, at the end, it's a competition. You know, you cannot all be champions. So there's one market leader, and then you follow them. You know, today there's Toyota. The following day there will be Tesla. So that goes the same with other businesses. So if you have this community and individuals with expertise on different backgrounds, it will just create, you know, a robust and dynamic landscape on the country level itself.
yeah, that's actually a good idea. It will help us with them with a lot of networking, learning from each other, from their peers and counterparts, and it brings a sense of community. I agree with you, because once they come out of the incubator and the accelerator, then they will need to be with grown-up business, so that in order to help them to grow a network. So it's a very good idea. I have a question, but I don't know to whom should be addressed. I will see it, and whoever think is can answer it. Where can we find a one-stop solution that has current policies for all the regulations that the company need to adhere to as a fintech startup, and if there is any reference?
Answer: there is none, I think, so far, because it's an evolution. You know, I will give you a couple of examples. There's one of the biggest entity in the world that would like to pay content makers. You know, where people create contents they publish, but those are
Yeah.
millennials, you know, and those are students, and they don't have bank accounts. So the problem, they cannot pay them. There is no way for them to compensate those individuals that create contents online. So they've approached us that, can we use Cwallet, because those individuals cannot be paid by a bank account. You know, now fintech actually is not 18 and above. Now fintech is targeting also 18 and below, because those content creators or content makers are generating revenue on publishing contents, like social media platforms. You know, it's for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're the richest of the richest, or or coming from a different background. But the problem is you don't know the customer. Anyone can just put a profile and that's it. It can even be a robot. So I think this is where the regulation comes into play for financial institutions, making sure that where is the source of funds? Is this the right person? Is using the right channel? Because there will be frauds. In the history of mankind, the banks have been attacked for so many years and times, either physically or online. So I think this is where the regulation comes into play, is to protect consumers. Bottom line, that's it.
No, that's a very good point. Actually, it's very interesting. The part of the that now you're helping or helping to find people under 18, because yes, I agree. Most of the people in the social media are probably under 18s, and most of them are influencers as well. So they're about the time to make money. I don't have more questions. I think from the audience. I think I covered most of them. Now we're almost 1 hour, and I know that I have to stick to time, but I cannot close without asking one question, which is basically a roundup for all our participants, and you have been very patient with us today. Thank you so much. What are the areas that you think should have that Qatar fintech sector should emphasize on 2021 and 2022, whether it is technology, whether it is regulation, whether it is new sector? I'm giving this as an open-ended question because I know also competition from the region is very tough. The more I read about fintech, as I'm an owner of an e-commerce platform, so fintech to me is very important because it helped me with a lot of the solutions. We know that in Saudi, it's a giant awakening. In the UAE, the market is really quite advanced. Bahrain is a service hub anyway, and fintech is an area which has been growing over the last few years. So what do you think the market here in Qatar, how is it going to shape? I understand we need to increase the pie, but what is the kind of areas or verticals or technologies that we need to focus on to really expand this market? And the companies who have decided to join in here, how they can survive? Can I start with Saleh?
Well, thank you for the question. There is many things need to be done. There is many milestones need to be set. The strategy now, as I understand also from the team of Qatar Fintech Hub, is the enablement of the fintech startup and guiding them how to scale, how to connect with local stakeholders. But it's also require a bigger effort from everyone. That said, is we require also to have an access to international investors, not because of the fund. It also will help us, connecting with international strategic partners. Will help us to, grow our business in Qatar and also expand it, hopefully, in the MENA and then internationally. But that said, one hand cannot clap, so it's require everyone effort in that sector. So I'm talking about startup looking for investment opportunity, and there where I see investment opportunity, I'm not talking about only the financial out of it, also the mentorship, the access to the market and the partnership, and obviously the financial part.
Okay, that's a good point. Hilal, can we?
Yes, I think the areas that we can focus on, maybe as I said in our second wave in Qatar Fintech Hub, we are focusing on emerging technology to solve problems faced by the financial institution. This includes customer acquisitions, reducing costs, a lot of things. So I think focusing more on emerging technologies for financial institution, I think maybe it will be good for 2021 until central bank launch the sandbox.
Okay, good. Dr. Singh?
Feel there are two places that I was reading the comments on the side, and there's one of our guests which is saying Islamic fintech is one for sure. That's definitely the point. The second is the payments is basically a very wide space that is pretty much open. If you look at the credit card transaction and debit card transaction that's happening in the country is not more than 25%, what I feel as my personal knowledge. So we still have about 70-75% of the transaction being done in cash. So we need to bring in more of those digital payment solutions in place. We need to transact through bank to bank, P2P. That's very much important, until as we build those products in that space. Now that's a huge, wide open space for the startups to come. The startups can come in P2P space, they come in digital payments, and that is pretty much scalable area. So that's where it is. And definitely technology is something that is required to do that. Sandbox will come in its own space, regulating the things. When you are talking about lending startups, you're talking about borrowing startups, where you are transacting between P2P. That's where you want the regulation to come, so that you get secured from the cyber attacks, you get secured from the policies and the laws of the local land. So of course you will take help of Sandbox when it comes to that point, but that doesn't stop you in building and thinking about those ideas for the startups. So I think time is to think about the startups, bring the technology, think about a fresh ideas, like I said, blue ocean ideas which are not there, and try to cash on to the market, which is already there, 75% being transacted in cash and not through the instruments. So I think that's a big market.
Good. Henk?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing we need the coming 2-3 years is talent. So even if you don't have a startup in your mind, please come to Qatar, because there are many companies that need your talent, young talent, experienced talent. We see big banks like UBS coming here. They promised hundreds of jobs. Credit Suisse will probably expand here. So we see a lot of banks coming here. It's time for Qatar this time. It started back in the days with Beirut, then it became Bahrain, then it became Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and now I think both Qatar and Saudi will be the next sort of hubs. And I think we have the soft power, we have access to money, and you will see more financial institutions coming to Qatar, and they need talent to work in those banks. And from those banks, you can do your startups, because once you understand the needs of the bank, you can come up with the right ideas and be successful. So talent, I think that's what I need the next 2 years.
Okay, that's a very positive note and message, I think, to startups, to a lot of the people who joined us in this webinar. I think we have taken really a lot of your time, and very sorry for all the technical issues. We didn't anticipate it, but you have kept a very positive spirit, and I really hope that our audience have enjoyed the discussions today. It's a tough subject, I understand, but it misses all and it touches all of our lives. With this, I think I would say thank you to everyone. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Singh, for this opportunity. It's really appreciated. It has been informative and educating for everybody. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Veda. Thank you so much for hosting this for us. Thank you, Henk. Thank you, Saleh, Michael, Hilal. Thank you all so much. It's been really and encouraging and knowledgeable forum we had.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.